if you're going through that cycle, congratulations. It means you're going to make it in this business, but it means you probably need to look at hiring someone.
Yeah, I love to call that the yo-yo effect, right? It's the downs and downs of ups, and how do we, instead of down and up, start to create this more stable?
Yeah.
It's never going to look like that, but how do we get the troughs and the valleys to wave like this in that growth?
Yeah. And I was fortunate. I got married a little bit younger than most people do. And my wife was helping me out during the time. And we have some great memories. And we're closer together because of it, because, she knows a little bit about my business. And, she was there for kind of the start of how it all started. But that's how, we jumped in it together, because I couldn't afford someone. So she came in. And then I kind of was able, she, moved on, and we were able to hire people and make it more stable as we went.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that, how you struggle with it, but you figured it out. You were kind of at capacity, though. You were bumping your head on this yo-yo, right? I think there's a difference between that and someone who just doesn't want to do something, right?
Yes.
Because I could not be at capacity. I may be like down here struggling, but I just don't like to do it. And so I'm like, man, I'm just going to hire somebody to do that for me, right? Well, there's merit in hiring someone to do something you don't like. But look, you've got to lead with revenue and manage your expenses. So until you filled your coffers with enough work and you've tapped yourself to where you start having these indicators, that could be business growth, it could be a skills gap, it could be paperwork.
There's exceptions for that. But most of us are running a business, and we don't have limited resources, so we have to find those spots where it's like, yeah, you got to get to capacity before you bring someone in, and no one's going to get it right. Like, you're going to get it too late or too early. I personally err on too early, and as the organization's grown and we get more and more people, and I kind of get that sense that, hey, we're running people crazy here. I always err on earlier than later, or at least I try to. But yeah.
Yeah, and the risk of waiting later all the time is burnout.
Totally.
Right? It's fatigue. It's burnout of either a current employee or even yourself.
Yeah, I mean, with yourself, you can kind of just deal with it.
Yeah,
is how I personally feel.
Yeah.
But when you do that to an employee, you can really get yourself in some trouble.
So let's say now, Matt, I've reached my capacity. It's time, man. I got to pull the trigger. I'm ready to make a hire. The first step that I think about oftentimes is identifying the need. Right? What's the real need? If I were to make a hire, why would I need to make the hire, and what need would it be fulfilling? And so talk to me about maybe some of your weaknesses and why you would hire to somebody to help you. And when you felt that pinch or that bottleneck, what need were you looking to fill?
Yeah. So if you talk to any entrepreneur, they'll give you the story of their momentum, their vision, their passion. And if you talk to anyone that's like closely related to them in their life, they're like, "Oh, he is all over the place. She is a crazy person.
He's a train wreck."
Yeah, he's all over the place." That's usually the story that you get. And so, fortunately, I'm somewhat self-aware, and so it was really finding someone that could, number one, do the task, number two, control the ADHD or whatever it is that I have that I'm bouncing off the walls all the time with ideas and things, that can kind of channel it, take it, make something of it. And so finding that is hard to do. I mean, it's a trick, but that's where I started looking. I said, I can't just be a person to do a task. I need a person that can, for lack of better terminology, take care of me.
Yeah. Well, I think about the person that can take care of you. The number one biggest mistake you can make in this situation is say, I need to hire. Let's go put an ad out there and hire, right? And I'm just going to start interviewing, and I'm just going to interview a whole bunch of people without thoughtfully starting to think about what tasks would they be doing? What would they be responsible for? What would even a job description? I know this, I hate this because I'm a fast mover. I cannot stand taking the time to write a job description, but I will tell you unequivocally, every time I've hired without a direct job description with very clear expectations on why I'm hiring, what happens is I hire someone on because I like them, and then they start doing 15 other things that never really helped me overcome what it was I needed to overcome so that I could do and be who I need to be.
Oh, classic first hire mistake. You go hire this person you like. They start doing the job. They don't like what you need to do. They want to do what you are doing. And so they start trying to do what you're doing, and you got no one in the organization doing what needs to be done. Yep. So, I mean, if you're going to be to hire, and you can't afford it and you don't have the time, well then sorry, you're not a business owner. You've got to find the time to step back and be able to define what needs to be done, put some expectations. We talked about standards before, clarity up front. All of those things have to happen before you bring them in, or you're just setting yourself up for disaster.
And we've got to hire to something.
Yeah.
We're hiring to fill this need, and I identified the need. I've got the job description. We're ready to go. And now I love my friend Matt, but I also know that Matt's going to go in there and he's going to fumble the interview because he loves people, right? Matt, you always see the positive in people. Tell me about the struggles that you embrace in that.
Yeah,
and
so
what you've done.
I've been real fortunate to hire one or two key people over the years. I mean, more than that, that I've personally hired, and they've worked out really, really well. I've also hired a ton of people that haven't worked out well. And what I've learned about myself is, for good or bad, I absolutely like anyone. And I'm not just saying I kind of like people. Like, I fall in love with people, like everywhere. Like, I meet some guy in the subway and I'm telling my wife how he's the greatest person I've ever met. And
it's a superpower.
Yeah, I just love people. And so I have an interview, and like in 5 seconds, I'm like, I can tell you're special. Like, I just I will say the worst things. I will do the worst things. I'm like, you're going to be fantastic here. I can already tell.
You've given him the job already.
Yeah, I've given him the job. I'm just so bad at that. And so I had to find the right personalities that could actually interview. And I would take and project myself onto people, and it would cause problems. And so, I remember talking to my my father-in-law, who I really respect, and I was like, look, there's things I see in my son that I just want to tell him, and he doesn't listen. And he's just not ready for this. Now, he's a great kid. Alden's amazing, but it's like he's just not ready. And you just kind of got to let some people just figure it out as they go. And I was like, I'm done figuring it out. You've been where I've been. Just tell me so I don't screw it up. Guys, gals, listening to this, if you haven't hired before, listen right now. This is one of those moments. You will screw it up if you don't do it this way. You've got to be able to have the standards in place. You've got to be able to have the duties in place, and you've got to be able to have the expectations. And if those things aren't in that first interview, you're shooting yourself in the foot and you're causing problems later. And if you don't want to admit it, that it was your fault at the beginning, it usually portrays itself like this. I don't know what happened to them, Jekyll and Hyde, and they're totally different people, and they're the worst hire I ever. Well,
let me tell you why, Matt.
Yeah.
I have a firm belief, and you guys can kick me in the shins if you want to. Anybody can show up to an interview for 45 minutes and tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah, that's it. That's totally it.
And then when they show up and they live with you, like when you date someone and you go on a couple dates and you're there together for 30 minutes and you have all these grandiose ideas, but the reality is you spend some more time together, you start to know who they are. And so the reality is, how do we try and predict in the beginning of the 45 minutes, maybe what that long-term relationship could look like? And if you don't have an interview process in place, I challenge you right now. Here's a crazy example of what I used to do. I used to do 3-hour interviews. Number one, the first hour of the interview is all about them. Oh my gosh, tell me about you, Matt. It sounds like you're so amazing. And I'm building them up and they're telling me all about their resume and all their past history. And then I would turn the corner and I would start talking about the challenges and gaps that I'm seeing in their resume. And I want to see how they respond to me kind of poking the bear a little bit and saying, I've seen a challenge here. Well, tell me about that. Why did this happen? I'm very honest. Then I would take them.
Or I've gone on to Facebook and I noticed this picture and this picture and this picture.
There you go. Yep. And tell me, that tells me something about you. What does it tell me
Make
about
them
you?
defend themselves. Yeah.
Yes.
Make them defend themselves.
Get them uncomfortable in the 45 minutes. And then I would walk them around the office and I would show them, if you were to be working with me, this would be your desk and your name would be here. So I'm assumptively showing them the role. And then at the end, I bring them back and I say, but I'm not certain. I do the takeaway. I'm not certain you're the right person. Here's what I need you to do. And then I always gave them a DISC assessment. I'm not going to go into this, but a DISC assessment is really one of those glorified personality assessments where I can start seeing the main way that they act and react and choose in their personality and who they are, and they show up in their natural state. That's what's important to me, because if they're in sales, that needs one personality. If they're going to be in administration or engineering or something like that, that's a completely different personality set. And so we can predictively anticipate some of the things up front so we don't aren't left with a burning pile of ash 6 months from now on a crash and burn.